Welcome to lesson 3 of module 3 part 2. This lesson is entitled, If You're Breathing, You're Alive. It's like I'm in a bad dream. I feel like something terrible is going to happen. First I go all dizzy and lightheaded and I can't think straight. Then my heart starts beating like crazy and I'm sure I'm going to faint or have a heart attack. So I go outside to get some air, but I can't breathe properly. It's like I'm suffocating. One of my clients told me this as she was describing her panic attacks. During a panic attack, many people experience symptoms such as a racing heart, tightness in the chest, lightheadedness, tingling hands and feet, fears of fainting or dying or going crazy, and a frightening sensation of being unable to breathe. A big part of the problem here is the struggle switch. Remember the struggle switch? We've talked about it. It creates anxiety about anxiety. But another big part of the problem is rapid, shallow breathing. Technically, it's known as hyperventilation. Whenever we feel stressed, upset, angry, or anxious, our breath rate increases. And this is part of the fight or flight syndrome, the fight or flight response. Remember that? The increased breathing rate gives us increased oxygen in our blood, which helps us prepare to fight or to run away. However, this alters the levels of the gases in our bloodstream, creating a chemical imbalance in the body, and this imbalance triggers a whole series of physical changes, including increased heart rate, increased blood pressure, and increased muscle tension. And this is why I ask you to practice slow, deep breathing with every breathing exercise in this program. By breathing slowly when you're stressed, you will reduce the level of tension in your body. This won't get rid of or control your unpleasant emotions, but it will help you to handle them more effectively. Plus, your breathing can become a powerful aid, an anchor that steadies you in the midst of emotional storms. So, slow, deep breathing is useful for all of us whenever we're stressed in any way. It's especially important at times when you feel as if you can't breathe properly. If you're stressed out and your chest is tight and you feel like you can't get enough air, then the problem is probably this. You're breathing so fast that you're not giving your lungs a chance to empty. It's as simple as that. You're breathing so fast, you're not giving your lungs a chance to empty. If you don't empty your lungs, then you can't breathe in properly because you're trying to suck air into a space that's already mostly full. So, the first thing you need to do is breathe out. Breathe out. Fully and completely exhale, emptying your lungs as much as is physically possible. Once they're empty, you can take a full breath in. And the slower you can take these breaths, the better, because you're helping to rebalance those gases in your bloodstream. So here's what I want you to remember. No matter how bad the situation you're in, no matter how much pain you may be suffering, start by taking a few deep breaths. If you're breathing, you know you're alive. And as long as you're alive, there's hope. Taking a few deep breaths in the midst of a crisis gives you valuable time to get present, to notice what's happening and how you're responding, and to think about what effective action you can take. Sometimes there's no immediate action to take, and in that case, being present and accepting what you are feeling is the most effective action. The goal is to control your breathing, not your feelings. Control your breathing, not your feelings. While mindful breathing will often give rise to pleasant feelings like calmness or peacefulness, you won't always get those, so don't expect them or try to force them. When mindful breathing, allow yourself to feel whatever you're feeling. Make room for those feelings. You don't have to like them, just let them be. In the midst of an emotional crisis, it can often be hard to remember these insights and techniques. So right now, I want to go over a few simple steps that can be particularly helpful when we are faced with acute upset, fear, panic, depression, or anxiety. Whenever we face a crisis, we find ourselves caught up in a storm of difficult thoughts and feelings. If we want to act effectively, to do the things that matter most to us, then we can't allow that storm to carry us away. So the first thing we need to do is drop anchor. In other words, we need to ground ourselves in the present moment. Once we've done that, we can consider other options. So the first step is to connect with your environment. Simply notice 5 things you can see, 5 things you can hear, 5 things you can touch or feel against your skin. Okay, so connect with your environment. Notice the sensations that you are feeling through sight, through hearing, through touch. That's step number 1. Step 2 is to simply push your feet into the floor and get a sense of the ground beneath you. Feel it supporting you, taking your weight. Once you've done that, then go to your breathing. So having grounded yourself in the present, keep breathing mindfully, using your breath as an anchor to hold you steady until the emotional storm starts to quiet. Okay, so we've connected with the environment, simply noticed through our senses. You've pushed your feet into the floor firmly to help ground yourself, and then further anchored yourself by mindfully breathing. Next, take a moment to scan your body and notice what you're feeling. Find the most painful feeling, observe it, breathe into it, expand around it, and allow it to be. After that, take a step back and notice all the thoughts whirling around in your head and see if you can name the story, as we talked about when we went over diffusion techniques. So here's anxiety, or here's the panic attack story again, right? Simply name the story. And finally, acknowledge. Acknowledge to yourself, okay, right now this is where I am, and this is what is happening. The crisis I have to deal with is blank, whatever that crisis is. The feelings I'm having right now are A, B, and C. So whatever feelings you're having. The thoughts I'm having right now are D, E, F. Whatever those thoughts are. And the actions I can take to deal with this crisis effectively are GHI. Right? So right now, this is where I am. This is what is happening. This is the crisis I have to deal with. Here are the feelings I'm having right now. Here are the thoughts I'm having right now. And here are the actions that I can take to deal with this crisis effectively. So below this video, I've included a crisis coping plan that allows you to take effective action. Again and again, come back to these basic steps, using them over and over until the crisis has resolved. And remember, every crisis, no matter how painful, is an opportunity to grow, to expand your psychological flexibility. Now, I understand you might not feel that way in the moment. So whenever you do get a moment later on, ask yourself, how can I grow from this? What can I learn from this? What skills, knowledge, or character strengths can I develop as a result of this? Again, in the acute crisis, you're not going to be open to asking yourself those questions. I understand that. Your main goal is just to get through the crisis, which is completely understandable. However, I still invite you to consider those questions after the crisis has ended, some time has passed, and you feel like you're ready to reflect upon them. Okay, so if you find yourself in a very stressful situation, drop anchor. Drop anchor. You can't do anything useful until you drop anchor. Push your feet hard into the floor, feel the ground beneath you. Sit up in your chair or stand up straight. Notice how you're sitting or standing. Look around the room. Notice what you can see. Notice what you can hear. Notice what you're doing right now. Take a few deep breaths and see if you can breathe down into your feet and keep them firmly pressed into the floor. Notice how your mind keeps trying to pull you somewhere else and see if you can stay present. Notice the room around you. Notice what you're doing here, right now. Okay, that's all it takes to drop anchor. And in those few moments that it takes you to do that, you'll find you'll get to a place where it'll be much easier for you to effectively deal with that crisis. So download the Crisis Coping Plan, read it over, and keep it close to you so these steps will be automatic whenever you feel stressed. You can practice these steps in any situation, really. You don't have to, wait for an emotional crisis to take place. Any situation you may find stressful, you can use these strategies. All right, and that brings us to the end of this module. As always, a summary of the key points is included here for you. Being present is essential for valued actions such as connecting with others and caring, loving and nurturing, appreciation and gratitude, and peak performance. Needless to say, I encourage you to continue to practice the engagement exercises within this module. The more fully we contact our here and now experience, the more effectively we can act, and the more fulfilling life becomes for you. Up next, we're going to boost the effectiveness of all the diffusion, acceptance, and engagement techniques we've covered so far by discovering a second part of your mind you probably aren't even aware of, a viewpoint from which we can observe thoughts and feelings, and a space in which those thoughts and feelings can move. Now, this concept that you'll learn is essential. It's essential to help you stop running from your pain, to help you experience that place inside you where no matter how great the pain is, it can never harm you. So I look forward to sharing this with you soon. I hope you have a wonderful week ahead.